and taxable services that I'm going to explain to you. Here, what is the meaning of the word goods? Goods means all types of movable property, but other than money and securities. Money and securities are neither considered goods nor considered as services. But including actionable claims, growing crops, grass and things attached to and forming part of the land which are agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. So this is a definition of goods, otherwise also referred, but here the distinction is other than money and securities. What is the meaning of the word money? Can somebody tell me what is money? Whether old currency which is not in use, that can also be considered as money or not?
Not. The word currency is a goods.
Word currency is?
Goods.
No, I'm not clear.
The word currency is not the currency, it's as good as a goods actually. It is
yes. Outdated currency which is not in use, which is not a legal tender for discharge of any liability, that will not be considered as money. Then that will be treated as goods. That can be sold and that can be bought and sold. Okay. Old currency that can be bought and sold. But current currency cannot be bought and sold. You can change that denomination. This color has come in. I did. So goods means every kind. Yeah. Tell me.
This old, you said old money can be bought and sold, but legally it is not allowed, no, sir. They specifically they made.
No, you are
specifically they said that old currency notes you cannot possess after this demonetization.
Only these two currency notes which are demonetized, that is prohibited. But otherwise, any old currency, suppose you have a currency note which is 100 years old, right? You can possess any number of those notes, no prohibition. Prohibition is only for currency notes of 500 and 1000 rupees. Right? And that will also be removed after 2-3 years. Because when everything is settled, that will also be removed. So because then it will be valued as a paper only. It cannot be treated as the currency. So holding old currency notes, that is of 500 rupees and 1000 rupees, that is limited. It is not prohibited. You cannot hold more than 2 currency notes. You cannot hold more than 5 currency notes. So that is for the time being. But later on, that limit will also be removed. Suppose you have dollars, and dollars which are the currency notes which were used 10 years before, not now. You can have any number of dollars. Nobody is bothered. You can have 1 rupee currency note which is 100 years old. That 1 rupee currency note, today it can be sold for 1000 rupees. Then that will be treated as goods. It will not be considered as money. Imran, you had some question. You can ask me now.
No, sir. Clear.
So is this definition clear? That money, what is money?
I have a doubt.
Yes, please.
In intrastate supply, it was written that if we supply anything to foreigners, that won't be considered as intrastate supply.
That is an export.
But if suppose we have exhibitions in India and there are tourists over there, and if we supply it to them, so wouldn't that be considered as intrastate supply?
No, if you have proper documentation for the foreign tourist, then that can be exempted. If that proper documentation is not there, what kind of invoice you create, that makes a difference. So that will require documentary evidence.
But the exhibition is supposed to be for everybody in general. So
unless there is a sufficient documentary evidence to establish that the customer is a foreign tourist, exemption is not available.
Okay.
Okay. So when we say foreign tourist, that's why you should have proper documentary evidences. So in big hotels, the foreigners do come, but they submit a photocopy of their passport, they submit a photocopy of their visa, then exemption is available.
So in the case of casual taxable person, non-resident, those concepts, can you clarify related to that?
Certainly we'll talk about. Certainly I'll explain. Right. So non-resident taxable person, he is a person making supplies in taxable territory but doesn't have a place of business in India.
Yes.
Non-resident taxable person. So he is a person from outside India making taxable supplies in India but not having a place of business in India. That is taxable territory. So he is referred as a non-resident taxable person. He also requires registration under GST, and that registration is valid for a limited period of time. Then Another concept that you asked is casual taxable person. So a registration under the GST is state-wise. So in every state, separate registration is required. So if a person is registered in one state and he is making supplies in another state and he doesn't have a place of business there, then he is required to have a temporary registration in that state as a casual taxable person. So this becomes relevant in exhibitions. So suppose you are based in Tamil Nadu and if you happen to come to Mumbai to participate in some exhibition, then for participation in exhibition, you don't need registration. If you want to have any transaction in the exhibition, then you will have to have registration in Maharashtra as a casual taxable person. So registration given to casual taxable person as well as non-resident taxable person, those are valid for a maximum period of 90 days unless they apply for another 90 days. So maximum possibility is 90 plus 90. Generally, that validity is only 90 days. So those are casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. Is your question answered, or I need to explain further?
Casual taxable person, I was talking related to that only. So if suppose I am a casual taxable person and I'm supplying it to any kinds of people, and suppose a tourist has come and he has taken goods from me, so that will be intrastate only, na? Like,
that will be
intrastate only, right?
That will be intrastate supply.
So over there it was written that any supplies made to foreigners is not intrastate.
Agreed, but what is the evidence that he is a foreign tourist? If you have a documentary evidence, then it is accepted.
Okay.
Isn't it? How do you prove that he is a foreign tourist? What is the justification? If you can justify he is a foreign tourist, then exemption is available. If you cannot justify, then exemption is not available.
Okay. Thank you.
Imagine a situation that if the exemption is given to you generally, then you will explain that every customer is a foreign tourist for you. Isn't it?
Right, right.
So that's why if you have a documentary evidence, you can certainly claim the exemption. And that's why I give you example that on all the big hotels, when the tourist is coming and he's from outside India, he's required to submit a copy of the passport. He's also required to submit a copy of visa. And sometimes even travel documents also they are required to submit, because then only a hotel is going to get the exemption on that.
Okay. Thank you.
So the concept of goods, I was talking about money. So money is the current currency. Currency which is acceptable as a legal tender of discharge of liability as of now, that is money. Old currency coins, those are commonly sold. Even if you look at Amazon now, old currency coins, old currency note, those are being sold as goods on Amazon. So that is not money, that is goods, and that can be bought and sold. That is subject to GST. Then securities. Securities means what? What is called securities?
Shares.
These are instruments issued by bodies corporate for raising money. These can be shares, debentures, bonds, warrants, or any other. So these are not, you can invest in these securities, but those will not be treated as goods. Okay. And even that is also not considered as a service, but action in relation to these goods or rather money and securities, that is chargeable as a service. Money is neither goods nor service. Securities are neither goods nor service. But activities in relation to these two, those will be covered under the category of service and that will be chargeable. Now take example share broker. If you buy the shares worth rupees 1 lakh, on that brokerage is only rupees 25. So you pay GST on 25 or you pay GST on that 1 lakh?
25.
On how much amount GST will be payable?
25.
25 rupees only, because
On the brokerage.
that is on the brokerage, right? Because the security themselves are not considered as goods. If those are considered as goods, then you have to pay the tax on that entire amount of 1 lakh. Right? So securities are not considered as goods. So therefore, there will be no tax on the value of securities. You will have to pay tax only on the value of service. That is called a brokerage. Okay. So this is what is the most important is movable. So why there is no GST on immovable property? Why there is no tax on immovable property?
It's not covered under goods.
It's not a good nor a service.
Not a good. It's not covered in the definition.
Yes, right. And when the property becomes immovable property?
It is fixed to any land or building like that.
No.
When it is attached to the
Attached.
When a fixed structure becomes a movable property, when a completion certificate has been issued by competent authority, then only it becomes immovable property. Before that, it may be complete for 10 years, it may be complete for 25 years, but if the completion certificate is not there, it will still be considered as a service. It will not be treated as a movable property. Did you get it?
Okay, sir.
Take a note of this. Any civil structure becomes a movable property only when completion certificate has been issued by competent authority. How many of you are from Mumbai now?
I am.
Okay, so in Mumbai, you know, it is very common that the completion certificate is not issued by BMC, and the builder do not apply for that. So if they have not applied, even if building is complete for 5 years and you are buying that flat now, you will have to pay the tax on that, because the building is not complete as per law. Practically, it is standing there for 5 years. Building is complete. Okay, but he has not obtained a completion certificate, or he has not been granted completion certificate. A transaction in that property will be subject to tax, right? But there are certain exemptions. On those exemptions I will discuss later on. But when a movable property, or rather when a fixed structure becomes a movable property, no, RERA is not into the picture as far as Maharashtra is concerned. Completion certificate is issued by only Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Okay. So that is about the goods. Then next is, what is the meaning of the term services?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So could you please explain me what is actionable claim with some example?
Actionable claim is only a debt, only a right to claim money.
Example, can you give me in the real scenario?
Yes. Suppose I'm receiving, I've given a loan to somebody else, right? And I can sell that loan amount itself to some other person. So tomorrow he can claim all the money from my borrower.
Okay, but how do I charge GST on that?
No, it is not. It is not chargeable. It comes under the category of definition, but it is under exemption category. Being goods is one part, but taxability, that is another part. That is what we are talking about. We are going to the definition of taxable goods.
Okay.
So actionable claims are
not covered under GST, sir?
No, these are not. Even growing crops are not covered.
Okay. So
Any agro produce is not under GST.
So what exactly is that? You told me actionable claim is exactly?
These are debts. Money claim, right to claim money.
Okay. So if I have sold goods to you, that becomes actionable.
If it is on credit, yes, it becomes an actionable claim. I can sell that credit to somebody else, and so he can claim money from you.
Okay, sir. Fine.
There are agencies which keep on buying these kind of debts.
Something called discounting, something like that, sir?
Yes, discounting comes under this category. So then the person who is discounting your bill, they get all the rights of a supplier. Okay.
Okay.
So I was telling you, actionable claim, it comes under the definition of goods not chargeable to GST. Same is about the growing crops. Any agro produce, whether processed or unprocessed, as long as it retains the identity of an agro produce, it is not subject to GST. Here we are talking about what is meaning of the goods. We are not talking about taxable goods. So first we are talking about goods, then further reduction, we come to the exact definition, what is the meaning of taxable goods. Because GST is chargeable only on supply of taxable goods, not all goods, only on supply of taxable goods. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
GST is on supply of, add the words, what you will add? GST is tax applicable on?
Taxable goods.
Supply of taxable
goods and services.
Right. So again, I'll take you to the old slide. Read it here. What is written here? GST is the tax levied and collected on interested supply of
Taxable goods and
taxable
services.
goods and services. It is not on supply of goods and services. Okay. So here we just defined what is the meaning of the term goods. Now, from the goods, now we move to the services. What is the meaning of the term services? Services means anything other than goods, money, and securities. Any activity. So it is bound to be an activity. So anything other than goods, other than money, other than security, that will be referred as a service. Relating to the use of money or conversion by cash or by other mode from one form of currency, another, etc., etc. So that is defined. In nutshell, anything other than goods, that comes under the category of service, but service does not include money and securities again. So what is called goods? Everything movable, other than money and securities. What is service? Anything other than goods, but again excluding money and securities, then that is called service. So now you know what is called goods, what is called a service, and therefore we move to what is exempted supply. So something being goods or service minus exempted supply, that will be called as a taxable supply. So exempted supply means supply of the goods or services of both which attract either nil rate or which are wholly exempt from tax. And exemption can be granted either under section 11 of the CGST Act or under section 6 of the IGST Act, and includes a non-taxable supply. So this is a very big definition, exempted supply. Very important definition for understanding. In exam, it is not so important, but it is very important for the purpose of understanding, because what it is saying, exempt supply means supply of any goods or services which attract either nil rate or which are fully exempted, and even non-taxable supply is also covered in the exempted supply. So three things are covered in exempt supply. Number one, non-taxable. Number two, nil rate. Number three, fully exempt. So three kinds of